Hey, what's up, everybody? Thank you so much for listening to the Romans 12:1 podcast. We would love it if you would go and like and subscribe whatever platform you're listening on to this podcast. That will help the algorithms just let other people know that they can find us and they can also receive the information that we are sharing with you today. It's our goal to share generational wisdom with the next generation, and you can be a part of that by liking and subscribing wherever you listen to the Romans 12:1 podcast.
Welcome back.
Yeah, it's been a minute.
It's been a minute. We're back. Part 2 of season 1.
You know, one of the things that sabbaticals do is they remind us we're just stewards of somebody else's property, possession, kingdom, and it's not ours. We get the idea of restoration from the same root word we get rest from. And so just the idea that restoration is meant to be restful.
Guys, if you're wondering why you're burnt out and running on empty, it's because you have not rested.
Hey, welcome back to the program. It's the Romans 12:1 podcast.
Welcome back.
Yeah, it's been a minute.
It's been a minute. We're back. Part 2 of season 1.
Part 2 of season 1. I don't know if we talked about this in the last episode, but when I was growing up, TV shows weren't like they are today where you get them on Netflix or whatever. You'd have a TV show, it'd show on TV, and there would always be the first half of the season would go through October, November.
Yeah.
And then there'd be this huge break, and then in the new year, they'd launch the second half. So I'm kind of viewing it that way. We're in part 2 of season 1.
I was thinking even Disney Channel did that when I was a kid.
Yeah.
Because I think there were so many episodes of certain shows.
Yep.
And I look back and it was only 3 seasons.
Yep.
I was like, oh, because they split them between the year.
They did.
But that was really one.
Yeah.
season.
I don't know why they did it that way. I'm sure there's a good excuse, but yeah, that was what they did growing up. So.
Well, I'm glad I don't have to wait anymore.
Yeah. Since this is kind of a retro kind of theme, we're just going to go with that.
We're retro.
Yeah, absolutely.
We're retro. I like it.
How are you?
I'm good.
It's been a minute since we sat in this room together.
It has been a minute since we sat in this room together. But I want to talk about you because you just came back from sabbatical.
I did.
So talk about that. Talk about what did you do? Why was it good? Tell me everything. Tell me about sabbatical. I've never had one of those. I'm only 26.
Yeah,
26-year-olds don't go on sabbatical.
Sabbaticals are weird. They're weird because the whole premise is that as pastors, ministers, we're working on weekends all the time. So if you work for a church like I do that's really cool and says, hey, you can have Friday off. So we kind of get a Friday, Saturday off. Mm-hmm. That's awesome. But a lot of people don't. And so,
sure.
But you're working on Sundays. So you know this from growing up. Whenever we go on vacation, we'd have to be back by Friday or Saturday.
Yeah.
Because we had, and then we would be, wherever we were visiting, we'd be in town while everybody else was working, so we couldn't just go see friends because they had to work,
right.
So the idea of the sabbatical is just to give ministers who don't get 3 and 4 day weekends ever. Most people get a 3 or 4 day weekend for fall break or Christmas,
Memorial Day.
Yeah, you might get a week
Martin
off
Luther
for
King
Christmas,
Day.
but we don't, right?
Yeah,
so
we got a service to put on.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. So the idea is that hey, because you don't get that kind of normal flow of rest, the church. I'm really blessed to work for a church that says we value rest for our ministers.
I love that.
And they gave me some time off, which was great. 30 years of ministry, I've never had a sabbatical ever.
What a gift.
So yeah, so it was pretty cool. It was pretty awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. We do not get weekends.
No, we don't.
It's so funny. I'll have friends from out of state be like, oh my gosh, you guys should come and spend a weekend here. I'm like, that is way more than you think you're asking of me.
Yeah.
Because even then, God doesn't stop moving. So we never stop moving.
Yep. Sunday's always coming.
Sunday's always coming. And so even if you do have Friday, Saturday off, low key on Saturday nights, we're preparing for Sunday. There's just we maybe get Friday off, but it really is because of the calling that we have. We do spend 7 days a week.
We do.
Working for the kingdom. I wouldn't have it any other way. I'm so thankful. But that does mean that we need extended periods of rest in order to keep going and in order to keep following what God has for us.
And what's hard about it is when you love what you do, you don't really think of it as a job.
No.
Right? I don't consider what I do as a job. I get to do what I love to do.
Yeah.
But you just go and go and go. And you one of the things I learned during the sabbatical, and I think I learned this during COVID too. Remember we were all home with COVID and we're like, oh my gosh, we're so busy all the time. This is so nice to just slow down and be with our family.
No.
We're never going back to being busy again.
No, I don't remember that.
Yeah.
I was like, get me out. get me out. And what's funny, in like the ministry life, like the creative arts ministry life, like we were recording services and editing services and making, like, I'm so thankful that like I was at a church too that was like very prominent on social anyways, but it was like we got to amp up our social because no one's doing anything. Everyone's scrolling on social. Like we had to like,
I feel
like we sped up during
our
COVID.
pastor says when the world hit pause, we hit play. That's his saying, because like everybody else is stopping to see what's happening. And we're like, no, this is the time for the ministry and the kingdom to advance. And
so
we did,
and show
we
people
hard.
how we handle crisis. And like, man, that was a crazy time. I actually had a good time during lockdown, which is funny. Yeah. I was like, this is awesome.
Well, the one thing I loved about the pandemic lockdown, and I don't mean to make this trite because I know a lot of people were hurt and that was a really serious time, but there was some net positives, I think.
Beautiful
one
things,
of them was I got to spend my first Easter with my family ever.
Crazy.
Yeah. So because we pre-recorded Easter that year.
Right.
And so on Easter Sunday, in fact, you weren't with us, but
no, I was at the recording though.
Yeah, that's where you were.
I showed up for the recording.
We actually made the whole family get up, get dressed. We all got dressed in nice clothes, like we were going to go to church, and then we turned on the TV and worship together, and it was really cool. But like, I didn't get those experiences ever,
right?
And so I think what was cool about the sabbatical is it gave me some of those experiences that I hadn't really had or got to experience ever. And I wasn't really involved in Christmas this year. So like, I didn't really know what to do with myself. Like,
so crazy.
Yeah.
Well, my whole life, I didn't see you during like Christmas and Easter seasons.
Yeah.
And it wasn't like poor Marty. It was like, because I was just used to it. It was just life. Like I just understood that like on like once Christmas Day hits, like, okay, we got dad for the week. But like leading up to Christmas Eve, that like week or 2 weeks before, because you used to do full on orchestras. Yeah. Like some people still do choirs, but like you had a massive choir and a big orchestra. And so there was like, it was a huge, like beautiful, I don't want to say production because it never is, but it was like a big set. Yeah. And you loved it. You always thrived in creative there. But I just knew that I never got to like see you. And this year, week before Christmas, you like showed up at my house.
Yeah. We did a lot of hanging out.
You were like, give me the baby.
Yeah, I got to babysit Mav
all the time. I was like, what are you doing here?
Yeah, it was awesome. I loved it. It was cool. So I got, it was cool. I just love that I work for a church that values rest and restoration.
That's beautiful.
We get the idea of restoration from the same root word we get rest from. And so just the idea that restoration is meant to be restful and rejuvenating and all those things. And so my leadership really values that. And it was good. It was a good season to be able to take that for me. So.
Okay. It's crazy you talk about restoration and restore. Restore is my word for the year.
Yeah. Nice.
Surprise everyone. We didn't think we'd be talking about this today, but talking through it with my husband, I saw the word restore and I was like, oh my gosh, that's it. And I had this whole moment with the Lord where I was like, when you go through a restoration process, you can either DIY it or you can bring in the experts.
Yeah.
And there's usually multiple. You have your designer, your architect, your contractor, like you have the plumber and the electrician, like you have all of these people. And we, because of the God we serve, who is the most creative and who is the architect, we get to instead kind of play rich and get to go rest in another place while God does the restoration for us.
So good.
I had that like whole like moment with the Lord recently. So it's funny you talk about that. I didn't even I did think like, oh, like we get to kind of play rich here because we're children of the King. We get to go and like sleep somewhere else. And there's obviously sacrifice. There's financial sacrifice. There's you're not sleeping in your own bed when there's restoration happening. Like there's all those, there is sacrifice, but you don't have to exhaust yourself. And so I literally was thinking about this last week and processing it with my husband of like, I feel like this is what God has for us.
I love where this is going because if you think about, I mean, we've all watched the DIY shows with, like Chip and Joanna and, all this, right?
When I was a kid, it was Extreme Home Makeover, which is back.
I know. They're doing a new Extreme Home Makeover.
Crazy. Okay, sorry.
Nuts. Anyway, but if you think about it, there's a process they go through. They go pick out the property that they want to restore. Then they have demo day. Right?
Demo day spiritually sucks booty, guys. It sucks. We don't like demo day. I would never like to go through demo day again.
Demo day's hard. So when you were younger, we lived in a house that we actually flipped. It was like a live-in flip for us. And we were tearing out walls and put down all new flooring. And what's crazy is I met Chip Gaines when we lived in Texas during that process.
At a Ranger game.
Yeah, it was at a Texas Ranger game.
So funny.
Sat right next to him, and I got to
You're like, guess what?
I totally fangirled.
Guess what I'm doing?
I totally fangirled because I'm like, oh my gosh, we're restoring our house and we watch our shows. And, blah, blah, blah.
And this was peak Chip and JoJo. I mean, they're still thriving. They have all their businesses and stuff, but this was before like Magnolia Table. Yeah. This is before they were in Target. This was like when they had just come on HGTV, and everyone in the Christian world paused and watched their show because they were like, they love Jesus and they work with their hands. It was like,
what I love about that though is looking back, we tore out, and this is true when you watch the show, they tear out everything down to studs. Mm-hmm. And there's a moment where you're like, what did I get myself into?
The tile in the entryway, guys.
Yeah. That was hard.
I mean, I was 17, and I was like, I'm not touching that.
That was tough.
My mom was so mad. She was like, I hate tile. And I was like, I'm just going to stay in my room.
Well, that house was built in like the 60s or 70s. Yeah. And so the way they laid tile back then is not the way they do it now.
Brutal,
and nothing was level. And so, we were having to do all sorts of things. But
that was some work.
There was a moment we pulled it all out, and we're looking at studs and bare concrete floors and sand under where there was tile so they can make it level. And I'm just looking at this going, what in the world? How do we make something beautiful out of this? And I would say there's some parallels with, restoration and us resting and taking a sabbatical. For me, who's used to just always doing something and always going, there was a moment where I looked and I was like, what is God going to do with this? Because none of this makes sense right now.
You got to call in the expert.
Yeah. Yep. So it's kind of cool. After demo day, you start putting things together, and slowly things start looking like they're supposed to look.
Right.
And then you come in and do all the finishing touches, the trim work, the paint, all that kind of good stuff. And when it's done, you have something that looked way better than what you started with.
Oh, that's beautiful.
And so restoration was a huge part. Yeah. And you don't get the restoration without rest.
Demo.
Yeah.
Without demo, and then resting and letting God do his thing. Yeah. And I had like a whole word picture of like God also, I feel like he kind of like had the demo of our life, and then he said like, these are the pieces from what you built on your own without me that I can use. And then these are the pieces that we're going to have to throw out.
Yep.
Like, this is what we can use and this is what we can't use. And I genuinely felt like we were like, okay, we're left to the studs and to the framework, and we get to go and take a breather while God like builds and restores.
Yeah.
And so I love that you talked about that with rest and restoration, because that has been like just like ringing in my mind.
There's something that your mom and I learned when we were really young, before you were born. I think we had some mentors in our life, and one of the things they would often say to us is that building a home always takes longer and costs more than you think it will.
Yeah.
And that was just kind of an analogy for life, that whether you're
across the board,
whether you're buying a house, whether you're having children, whether you're finding a church home, whether you're building a community, all those things, it's always going to take longer, and it's always going to cost more.
You don't know the sacrifice until you know the sacrifice.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, for us, it was definitely true on the sabbatical, just to be able to, it definitely felt like it went on forever, because like the first half of it, I loved. We did road trips and, lots of fun stuff. Went to the Grand Canyon. Mom and I went to like a marriage retreat thing and a counseling retreat deal together, and that was awesome.
Yeah.
And then we got home from all of that, and I still had a few weeks to go. I'm like, what do I do with myself right
just
now?
Like twiddling your little fingers.
But without pausing, and resting, God can't do the work that he needs to do. So it was good.
Which is of course difficult, because like you said, like you do what you love.
Yeah.
So like even sitting and like, if you wanted to write a song, that's work.
Yeah.
You have to take a step back from that, which is like, that's difficult.
And what's crazy is I have an amazing team. I have an amazing staff. My volunteers are fantastic.
What a gift. Yeah.
And, we talk about the Jurassic Park theory all the time of what happens if you get eaten by a dinosaur. You don't want everything coming across your desk, that kind of stuff. And I have maybe the most capable team I've ever had. And they do great. And I still just sat at home and stressed. It's like, I'm not there to help, and it was that was a thing that the Lord had to like tell me to like be a little bit more open-handed with this. Let me do my thing.
Right. And let me prove to you what I've done in your leadership by showing you
Yeah.
that you have built a team with me that can do this.
Yep.
You
And
don't have to be in the room.
It was a great reminder. God doesn't need any of us.
No.
We serve at his pleasure.
Of
because
course.
he's asked
He
us
wants
to.
us. He's desperate for us,
Yeah.
but he like in the like nicest way, we are also replaceable.
Yep.
And we
100%.
should function like that.
Yep.
Of I'm going to replace myself because I can't do this forever, which is literally the whole basis of our podcast.
Yes, exactly. That's exactly right.
That's the entire point of this
That is,
podcast. And
yes.
so I love that you mentioned that too, because the whole point of this podcast is raising up the next generation.
Yep.
And how do you pass the torch? And then at this point, it's like not forced, but you were forced to pass the torch.
Yeah. Yeah.
And see it in action.
Yeah. Which gave me all sorts of insights and things to think about, and
Holes in your leadership, and
Hopefully-
also like wins of your leadership. Like it really like takes you to a place.
Yep.
Takes you to a place.
hopefully I'm coming back better than I left, and and we get to see a new season with the Lord, and so
Yeah.
it's gonna be fun.
Well, this is your sign. If you've never even taken a vacation, go on vacation.
Yeah.
Go on vacation and don't work.
I have a friend who I'll actually probably have him on the podcast someday, and he got through almost all. He's a worship leader at his church. He is almost. It's a smaller church, so he's the worship pastor, the production director. I mean, he's everything, and he
Yeah.
can do it all. Honestly, like I've taken him to lunch before and just said, "Hey, man, like." Nobody probably sees you the way I see you. Like, I just want to buy your lunch and tell you you're awesome,
I love
because
that.
he's creating all his stage sets. He's mixing all of his own mixes, and he's figuring out ways to do a lot of things. And he got to the end of last year, I want to say like November or December, and his pastor came to him and was like, "Hey, have you taken a vacation this year?" He's like, "No." And they were like, "You have to take a vacation." And and I remember him coming back and just saying, I didn't even realize it. Like the whole year got away from me and I had no idea. So
Wow.
to your point, if you haven't done that and you want
Yes.
leadership and ministry in any capacity, whether you're worship ministry or any capacity, like take time and rest. There's a reason God
Yeah.
gave us a Sabbath.
Yeah.
Our Sabbath looks a little bit different
Yeah.
because of what we do. We serve so that other people can connect to the Lord.
Right.
But at the same time, man,
That doesn't exempt us from
it
needing a
doesn't.
Sabbath.
We need it.
Yeah, the Lord took a Sabbath
Yep.
after he created.
Yep.
And we're creating all the time.
Yep.
We need a Sabbath.
And
If
what's
God
crazy-
needed it, we need it too.
We would look at the
Times
10
10.
Commandments and be like, "Oh yeah, we shouldn't murder."
Sold. I get it.
Yeah, we shouldn't.
Yeah,
covet.
steal,
Yeah,
lie.
steal.
Yeah, makes
We
sense.
We shouldn't have any
Signed.
other gods before. Man, we get to that Sabbath one, and we're like, that's Old Testament stuff.
Like, but do we really need it? I even have like fallen into the trap of I'm in a creative role on
Yeah.
staff at my church, which means I can take it anywhere. So,
I've seen it.
yep. We're like going on what would be our vacation. And I was like, I can, because I do social media, which is hilarious that's a whole like position these
Yeah.
days. I'm so thankful because I love it. But I'm like, I can post. Takes 5 seconds out of my day. I
Yeah.
can post. And yes, I can post. But what that meant was, I don't have to like prepare and create the content before I get there, since
Yeah.
I'm going to post while I'm there anyway. So I can like make the content while I'm there also. And then I hit this point where I'm working my entire vacation.
Yeah.
And I realized I hadn't taken a vacation in a year. And neither had my husband. He's a media
Yeah.
professional. And so like his job is also super mobile. And our leaders looked at us and we're like, guys, like, if you're wondering why you're burnt out and running on empty,
Yep.
it's because you have not rested.
Yeah. I think I just think it's really good to be reminded that God doesn't need us.
No, yeah.
He doesn't.
No, it's going to move forward without you. It's
Yep.
done it before. I was gone for
Yep.
6 weeks on maternity leave.
And everything was fine, wasn't
Everything got posted.
Yeah.
Like, it's not that deep. It is deep. It's important. It's a very significant role. People are checking Instagrams more than they're checking websites these days. So, like, it matters.
Right.
But also, there are incredibly creative and capable people that can step in when I'm not around and could possibly do it better than me.
Yeah.
And even though I love it, like, there are the resources for me to take a
And
break.
think about this. Like, if we, you hear me talk about the parable of the talents all the time, right?
Yeah, it's your favorite.
So if the premise of that is that God, there's lots of premises to that, but as Jesus tells the story, God gave to his 3 servants, each they had the ability, right? And he selected me, or he selected you to do that thing.
Yeah.
And you come to a season where you're resting, or God says, hey, it's time to take a break, because the king gets to come back and take his possession back, right?
Right.
What makes us think that the person that he selects for our job next isn't capable, right? I think that's something that we have to wrestle with, because when we say, I need to be there for it to function, what that says is that the Lord chose someone who's not as capable as we are.
100%.
And I think that's a really dangerous place for us to fall
100%.
into.
And what is interesting too is like, if we were to think about it super logically, we might be right.
Yeah, right.
But at the end of the day, like, we are not living in a culture mindset. We're
And
not
it's-
supposed to be living in that mindset.
and
We're
it's
supposed to
not
be living in God's
ours.
mindset. It's not
It's
ours in
not
the first
ours.
place.
Yeah.
It doesn't belong to
Yeah.
us. And if we're holding it like this,
Yep.
like, I'm so thankful God's so gracious with us. But like, homie could open your hand real quick and you drop it.
There's obviously I have all sorts of movie references, but there's a scene
love movies.
in Lord of the Rings. It's Return of the King.
Yeah.
And Gandalf goes to the city of Gondor, the White City, and he gets there, and there is someone who is a steward of the throne of Gondor who forgot he was a steward. And Gandalf takes a moment to remind him, you are a steward. This is not your throne. And every time I see that scene, I'm just like, man, like, how easy is it for us to fall into that trap? So, one of the things that sabbaticals do is they remind us we're just stewards of somebody else's property, possession, kingdom.
Especially
and it's
like
not
leading
ours.
from a worship ministry side or a creative side or whatever, like, it's just not your vision,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know? And your pastor, often, like, we both have incredible pastors that like allow us to like bring forth vision and workshop vision with them. And like, I love that. At the end of the day, like, it's not ours.
Nope.
And we are serving under someone who is praying and believing, and God is dropping vision straight to them, or we even trusting them.
Yep.
Like the vessel for the Lord. Like, it is literally not our vision. And you have to capture and carry a vision that's not your own. And as a creative, that's so hard.
It is hard because we're creatives.
We are.
And it is easy for us to think we're the most creative, best idea in the room.
I was about to say, like, my idea is the best.
Yeah.
My whatever I'm creating is the best. I think this song is way better. Why is my pastor saying, hey, I feel the Lord leading us to sing this song on Sunday?
Yeah.
I don't like that song.
Yeah.
I don't want to sing that song. That song doesn't make sense.
Wow.
But your pastor looks at you and says,
This is the song I want.
this is the song that the Lord dropped in my heart.
Yeah.
Are you really truly going to look at your pastor and say, you don't hear that from God because I don't like it?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
that'll hit
No.
you straight in the
Well,
humility.
sometimes it doesn't even come across that way. Like,
No, you don't
this
realize
week,
that's what you're
Our
doing.
pastor wanted a song at the end of the service, and he gave us the song that he wanted.
Sure.
And we're all looking at each other because we know the content of the sermon. We're saying, "Oh yeah, that's a really good
Beautiful.
idea."
Yeah.
But then a couple days later, he sends us an email and says, "Hey, I found this version on YouTube that has this line in it." That I want to make sure if we can use it. And he was very kind. He said,
Sure,
if
sure.
we can use it, great. If we can't, that's okay too. But in
love
my
that.
mind, I'm thinking, okay, he really wants this. How do we make this
Yeah,
happen?
how do you make it work?
So now in my brain, I'm thinking, okay, because we do multiple services, and this is a whole nother podcast topic, so I don't want to get stuck in this
we
statement.
do this all the time.
Yes.
It's when we are allowed to yap by ourselves and don't have a
well,
guest. it's
half of this
almost a
conversation
problem.
wasn't even planned.
We just get excited.
So, but the thing is like, I'm thinking, okay, we have a limited amount of time we have to steward because people got to go pick up their kids. Our parking lot doesn't fit the size of our church we are anymore. So people got to get
Right.
in and out. And so like, we want to be efficient with our time, which means we have to steward it well, and we want to be effective with our time, but
Right.
we can't just throw away 5 minutes or 10 minutes in a service.
Right,
And so I'm
right.
looking at this going, okay, well, I love the song idea. I want to try to make your idea work, but I selected a short version of this song to be efficient and effective in our
Right,
time that we
right.
have. And now I got to figure out how to undo all of this, right?
Right.
It would have been really easy for 25 or 30-year-old Tim to be like, this is dumb. We're not going to do it.
I'm not doing
I'm
that.
not doing that.
Yeah.
Because I think my idea, thinking about all the logistics, was better. But, we kind of
Right.
were like, okay, our pastor wants this. Let's figure out how to make this work. And we came up with an idea, and I
Yeah.
think it's going to work. But it would have been super easy to fall into the trap of, no,
For
I've already
sure.
figured this out.
Like, he doesn't know.
Yeah, he
he has no idea.
Yes.
He
How many
doesn't know
times
what
have-
we work
How many
through.
times do worship leaders say that? You have no idea.
He
what I
just
do.
doesn't know.
Yeah.
He doesn't know what I do.
Yep.
They think that I just show up and sing the songs. They
Yep.
do not know all the logistics that go into it. Well, have you found an honoring way to tell them all the logistics? Hey, this is what like what you said.
Yeah.
This is why I did what I did. Wouldn't it be amazing if we didn't have to think about, but like, because thank you, Jesus, we have so many people that are coming to meet with you on a Sunday. We have to have these multiple services in these like windows of time. I've literally known churches to have their last service gets like flooded because their last service is the one that they can be a little bit more spontaneous and a little bit more like they can just like flow spirit in, and people are like, I want to be in that service, and they're like, please go to another service.
After this is over, we need to write down, we have to have a podcast dedicated to the idea of spontaneity in worship. Okay, we have to do that. So let's not forget this. Okay, that has to be a topic soon. So anyway, I don't want to belabor the point. The idea is that we are stewards. We're always going to come back to that. I mean, this is the idea of Romans 12:1, that we give up ourselves for the benefit of God and his kingdom. Right. This is our spiritual act of worship. It's when we, when we give up ourselves. And so,
and you're putting that into practice when you take a step aside and say, I'm going to rest.
Yep.
I am going to allow God to move,
and do
which is hard. And people
me.
don't like that phrase because they're like, you're going to allow him. Well, yeah, because he's kind and he's not going to force anything on you. But like when you take a step back and you say like, Lord, like I'm fully surrendering this and trusting my team to you, that they're going to do what I have taught them to do, but also what you have taught them to do, what you have equipped them to do, whether I think they're ready or not. And you fully trust that is stewarding the kingdom so beautifully.
Yeah. And we don't know what God's doing, so I think we just have to come before the Lord with open hands and open hearts, open minds. Just say, God, do in me what you need to do. A big part of my prayer was, during my prayer life changed during this, because I spent a lot of more time praying because I had more time to give. For sure. Which sounds just crazy. No, almost like a confession, just saying it out loud. But
listen, that's so real. Yeah. It's actually so real.
Just saying to the Lord, like, search my heart, oh God.
Yeah.
See if there's any offensive way.
Pull it out. Pull it out. Let's talk about it.
And lead me in the way everlasting.
Right.
I want that, because when I am done with this restoration, this Sabbath, I want to come back a better leader. And so anyway, it was good. It was a really good time.
Oh, praise the Lord. I love that so much.
But I had a lot of time to think. So obviously we got a lot of other things that we've been stewarding, like this podcast.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, literally.
And this ministry.
No, it's so funny. I was thinking about this with Noah. I was like, okay, like I'm reading my Bible, my little verses once a day, living my life. I finally looked at him and I was like, homie, I got to read my Bible twice a day. Yeah. I need to be reading my Bible twice a day, like with all the things that I'm trying to steward. And while I'm like allowing God to rebuild like my life and my world, I'm like, I got to be reading my Bible twice a day.
Yeah.
I need to be praying more. I'm like, yeah, it's very convicting when you realize how much you're not praying.
Yeah. Yep, it is.
And you're scrolling.
Yeah. And not just like talking to God in the car when you're on to your next appointment.
Or just when you need something.
Yeah. Oh. There's a song out right now. I only talk to God when I need a favor. Like, that is real.
It's convicting and how frustrating. Nobody okay, sorry. I'm about to get in everybody's business right now. Nobody likes that friend.
Nope. That only calls you when they need something.
It's annoying. Like, in the nicest way. Like, listen, you can see some of my scars right now I'm not great with. But like, if I have a friend that's only calling me when they need something, I'm frustrated. Yeah. I'm frustrated.
We treat the Lord that way all the time, don't we?
That is who we treat God as. And I was like praying through this a couple weeks ago when God's really, really gentle and kind to some people. He knows I don't respond to that. Yeah. Because I'm going to be like, good idea, but So God literally was like, girl, get off your freaking phone. And I was like, yeah, you're right. Get off your freaking phone. Yeah. And I noticed the way that I'm talking is different. I'm like not scrolling in bed anymore. Like, you need to read your Bible in like start and end your day with Jesus. Yeah. Stop starting and ending your day with like the things of the world. Like, and it's fully changed me realizing like, I don't just want God when I need something. Like, he's supposed to be my best friend. Yeah. And like, I don't just call my best friend when I need something. Yeah. If I do, Lord, change that in me, because that is a really not a good friend. Like,
one of the things that occurred to me while I was on sabbatical, when I talk to God, I understand in my heart that he is kind and wants to have a relationship with me.
Of course.
But I would almost always approach him more like he was this unapproachable king that if I didn't say the right things and honor him the right way, that I really couldn't talk to him. So a lot of times my prayers were like, God, I really want this thing, or I need this thing, or I have this idea, but I know that you're God
and it's your will.
It's your will,
Ooh.
you know, and one of the things I learned is most prayers that people pray out of desperation that we find in scripture, even Jesus did not pray reasonable prayers. Jesus absolutely knew that God did not deny him or forsake him.
100%.
But what was his prayer on the cross? God, why
did you forsake me?
Why did you forsake me? Why
or
did you
in the
do
garden,
this to
he
me?
knew God's plan for his life was to get up on that cross, and he said, take this cup, it's too heavy.
And he did recognize God with reverence.
And he did, but
know,
he was bleeding. He was praying so hard because he didn't want this.
Yeah,
like
and
it's
these
David is a great.
prayers.
David was depressed.
Yep.
And like,
and he would say things like, "Take the head of my enemy, but you're God." Right?
I get
so,
it, but like,
so like I began in this season to just pray unreasonable prayers. What's been crazy is you do this with your friends all the time, right? You say, okay, I know this person probably means well, but this is how I feel. And once you get it out, it's good, you know, and you feel better and you have the right perspective and your friends help you think through your perspective. And I began to just talk to God a lot more that way and just pray unreasonable prayers.
Yeah.
And so anyway, yeah, we could keep going on and on about
I could
this,
never.
but,
I would. You're talking about the spiritual realm. I could live in there.
Yeah.
I could live in this topic for a year.
That's awesome.
I really, it's my jam.
Okay, well, I want to wrap this up. We've been
Because
talking.
we've got updates.
We do have. Updates.
We have updates that we really need to talk about, and I will not shut up unless you stop me.
Okay,
so,
right.
first, talk about the website.
Okay, so we have a new website.
We got a
which
new
I'm really excited.
website.
If you haven't visited, it's RomansTwelveOne.com. Just spell it out: RomansTwelveOne.com.
And what's on it? That's
and
so fun.
there's some information about our ministry, what we do. You know, I do a lot of consulting, coaching, things like that. So you can find information about that there.
All the methods to his madness.
Yeah, all the ways to like connect with me and be a part. And our podcast is there, so you can find all of that. Maybe the thing I'm most excited about, because deep down inside, I want to be a clothing designer. Like, I would love to do that. We have a merch line now.
We got merch.
So one of the questions we get asked from the podcast is people will email and say, hey, how can we support you in your ministry? And one of the things I usually would tell them is like, hey, find people who need help in ministry and I can help them. But now we have another thing to say, which is go buy our clothes. It's like it's really cool, like straight out of Romans.
Straight out of Romans.
So it kind of, lends to my hip hop,
I'm designing something soon.
Yes.
He's just finding this out right now. But I'm going to design something for the girlies.
I like it. So
I could wear that and it'd be cool.
Yeah.
But like, I'm going to design something for you girlies to wear at your worship nights. That's going to look with your cheetah pants. That's going to look dope.
I love it. So we got this hoodie. We've got a t-shirt. This is straight out of Romans. We also have another line of shirts that say worship lifestyle, kind of leaning into just worship is a lifestyle, but our worship is our life, and they can have style, and we can have style too. So anyway, so you can support our ministry by going, go buy a hoodie, go buy a t-shirt.
Hoodie.
It's the perfect time of year to get a hoodie right now.
It's cold, dude.
And
It was snowing.
These are warm. They got good.
Cozy.
Very cozy.
Yeah. I can't wear hoodies right now because my child really likes the hoodie strings.
Oh, nice. Yes, he does. That is true. I have to like tuck them in.
I know they're going to be soaking wet. It's kind of disgusting.
But,
I love babies, but they're gross.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So we have all the information, all of the merch, and then we also have a really cool update.
Yes, we do. We have a sponsor.
We have a sponsor.
Which I'm pretty excited about.
It's a big deal.
There's an AV company called the Daniel Group that, in fact, they will be making some appearances on our podcast.
Oh, sweet.
And we're going to do some fun things with them. I met Colton Brooks at a conference recently, and he and I just hit it off.
Awesome.
And we got to talking one day. He's like, hey, how can we be a part of this? And so I know one of the biggest things as a worship minister is I have to be in charge of all the gear, whether it's direct boxes and cables and microphones.
That's what I was going to say. You are not showing up and singing.
It's everything.
It's everything. Yeah.
Finding someone you can trust that can help you, because we tend to think of audio, video lighting like buying a car. It's like, okay, and if you're a worship minister, you've ever had to stand in front of your elders or financial committee or whatever,
and ask for production equipment.
The thing you're going to hear is, okay,
how can we make this cheaper?
Yes, or give me 3 options. Give me the Cadillac, the Honda.
Yeah, you got to get the good, better, and best options.
Yes, and we don't want the Cadillac. We want the Honda, but we also don't want the Geo Metro either, right?
But I want the Cadillac.
Yes, right. So that's a really hard sell. But the truth is like audio is not that way. We don't get to set how that works. There's a whole industry out there that kind of sets how that works. So for me, it's having someone I can trust, that when I call them and they say, this is what you need, this is how much it costs, having that relationship with them. And one of the things I love about the Daniel Group is they are all about helping ministry and being ministry minded and creating an authentic relationship with the churches and the ministries that they operate with, and you can trust them, and it's really cool. They're not going to try to sell you a $300 piece of gear for $500, or they're not going to try to sell you a $5,000 piece of gear for $10,000
because they know that what you're stewarding is
so,
you're stewarding the church's money. That's a big deal.
So you'll start seeing their stuff show up on our socials, on our website. I got this really cool little Yeti from them. I've been trying to display for years. So anyway,
in marketing we call that subtle product placement.
Yes, that's this product placement. Notice I haven't taken a drink out of this yet. Part of it's because I don't know how to get around the microphone, but anyway, so I'm really excited about Daniel Group. You're going to start seeing them in our podcast and everywhere else a lot.
I'm so thankful for people like them, because they're it's a little distracting to the worship environment when audio is not it.
I remember there was a time in ministry, and I'm sure a lot of people who's listening to this can relate to it. I needed to buy a $15 capo. And I had to go to the leadership meeting where they decided all the financial things, and I had to ask them for $15 to buy a capo. And a lot of people are in that situation. So trying to connect them with people who can help them.
That's amazing.
When they need to buy cables or DI boxes or they need to renovate their whole worship center. Having that relationship is important. So I'm excited to introduce the Daniel Group to as many people as I can.
Shout out to the Daniel Group. We love you. We're so thankful for you.
Yeah.
I am not an audio engineer, so I am very thankful for you. All I can say is that doesn't sound right.
Yeah. Can you fix it?
Can you fix it? Like, what's wrong with it? I don't know. Something sounds wrong. It's not my strength. Settings are not my strength. Even with my camera, I hand it to my husband. I'm like, can you fix this? And he's like, we'll do it like this. I'm like, I don't care.
Just fix it. Just make it work the way I want it to.
Technology in the year of 2025, technology should just work for me. So people like the Daniel Group are like, we got you. It's going to just work for you. I love that.
Yep. And you can trust them. And that's a huge thing. I love
that.
To me.
The trust. So, that really matters. Okay. Well, shout out to the Daniel Group. We love you.
Daniel Group is cool. The last thing.
Yeah, one more thing.
Actually, I guess we kind of have to. But the big thing is we're going to do a giveaway. Yes. So over the next several episodes that we have come out, what I'm going to ask you to do is comment, share, tag us. If this is on Instagram, or are we going to have TikTok? I don't even know. Well, let's not go that direction. Anyway,
I'm in marketing, so
wherever
you don't want to talk to me about
wherever you find this, if you comment and share with your friends, you're going to be entered for a drawing for a new program that we're going to be releasing called Building Better Volunteer Teams. Woo! And all of us have the struggle of putting volunteer teams together. And then we finally get them together, and then we get last minute cancellations. People don't respond on Planning Center, right? And there's all sorts of things. I have a system that I have developed over the last 30 years of ministry where most of the things I hear people talk about that they struggle with, I don't struggle with.
You have a system for it because you have a system.
Because there's a system in place. And so I want to share that with people. It's something I've developed over time. It works. And when you implement it, it's great. So this is a $3,500 product that I'm going to give away for free to some random person. So if you want to enter into this drawing, all you got to do, this is episode 8. We'll probably do this by episode 15. So I'm going to give several episodes here to make this happen. You can comment, share, like, subscribe, all those things. Just make sure you do all the things that we list on our socials, and we'll make sure we enter you into the drawing to win building better volunteer systems.
Because dang, if you're telling me that my volunteers will touch Planning Center.
Yeah. What if I told you...
I'll hire anyone.
This is serious. What if I told you that I spend less than 5 minutes a week planning out my volunteers and making sure planning center requests are accepted.
Listen.
And what if I told you, because I know a lot of people are spending hours of their week just trying to build their teams every week.
Yes.
And I can give you a system that will make sure that that is the least of your worries, that you can walk into Sunday with confidence knowing your whole band's going to be there.
Yeah.
And things are going to work the
if
way
you're off, you can stay off.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So if you want to know what that is, like, subscribe, tag, share, all those things.
Oh yeah. I would say that is a lot of people's number one struggle, because planning center is such a gift. If people would just, if the volunteers would just know what a gift it is.
Yeah. I love planning center.
I love
planning center. If you're watching this next part is not meant to dog on you. Please
sponsor us.
Well, yeah. Oh, dude, please sponsor us. That would be amazing.
We love you.
But I would say this is not meant to be a dog on planning center.
Because we love it.
Planning center gives functions a wide array of options of the way their product can be used. Correct. Sure. So there are some things that are in Planning Center that works for some models that don't work for others, that work for some systems that don't work for others.
Right.
And if you don't know the difference, Planning Center can actually work against you if you don't know how to use those things correctly.
Okay. So you're going to teach us.
I'm going to teach you. Yeah. I'm going to teach you how to make sure you use Planning Center in a way that actually benefits your ministry, not in a way that hurts it. So
that's freaking awesome.
Yeah.
I remember when Planning Center came out.
Oh my goodness.
Because I remember you were so excited.
Planning Center saved my career.
I mean, I was a kid. I was a child. And I was like, what is so exciting about this desktop thing that's green? And I don't
Planning Center legitimately saved my career as a worship minister.
It's amazing. Yeah. It's amazing. Yeah. And we build out teams a month at a time.
Yeah.
And wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
I think maybe I need to come share my building better volunteer systems.
I was about to say.
With your church.
Yeah. And if you're not having a tutorial on Planning Center with your teams, that's just a little plug. You should do a Planning Center. You should do a Planning Center tutorial.
I
teach them how to use it. People don't know how to use it, which blows my mind, because they'd be like, I've been serving in church. I just kind of assume I literally had a girl recently tell me that I love her and she would be totally okay with me saying this. She was like, I just assume I'm on every other week. I was like, girl, we have you on the opposite 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And she was like, maybe I should check Planning Center. I was like, homie, like, yes.
Well, in the media player that they
this is there to help you and service you. Use it.
So I ask all my production team to act like they're worship leaders. They need to know the flow.
Well, they are.
Yeah, they are. Yeah. We talked about that. Yeah, we did. So
just a reminder.
But it was funny. I was talking to somebody, one of my camera ops, not too long ago, and I send out an email every week. They're like, hey, we because we use click tracks, we'll put our clicks together, and I'll actually take the real MP3s and I will create the flow of the service. So wherever we have pads, I've got pads in our, in our clicks and all those types of things. So you can literally listen from beginning to end, how all the transitions work, how all the services work, those types of things. And I'll send that out, and we call it our full bounce. We bounce the whole, MP3 out. I upload to Planning Center. It's usually about a 20 to 22 minute file, and they can go listen to it so they can practice their transitions. They know when we're going to vamp, all that kind of good stuff. And, so I ask all of our production, hey, listen to this every week. I was talking to one of my camera ops. He was like, oh, I didn't even know that was an option. And I'm thinking, I send you an email every week. So I had to show him, because he didn't know in Planning Center.
Where to find it.
It has a media player. You can click on that file, listen to it, and then you know exactly what's happening. You know what to do with your shots, because you know what's happening in every part of the service. So anyway,
we have to tell people too, we're like, when you go through our membership class, we call it Growth Track. I know it's a pretty popular title, but we call it Growth Track. Like, when you go through Growth Track, please put down an email.
Yeah.
That you check, because that creates your Planning Center profile.
Yeah.
So I was like, I'm not getting emails.
You guys use the people.
We do. I use people. I love people.
Yeah.
I need to send a thank you note. I'm taking a dinner to someone. I'm on a meal train. I'm doing anything, and I'm like, what? Or I need their phone number.
Yeah.
I love Planning Center.
That's cool. People. Yeah, Planning Center is so good. So if you're watching this Planning Center,
please sponsor us.
Come talk to us.
I'm obsessed with you.
Yeah.
I love you so much. You are the greatest gift to my ministry.
Yeah. There's a lot of truth there.
I'm just saying.
That's cool.
The Bible, and then
God. There's the Holy Trinity.
Not even my husband, who I do the ministry
The Word of God.
He comes after.
And then there's Planning Center. That's awesome. Well, hey, as we wrap up, I also want to kind of promote some of the next. We've got some really exciting guests coming up. So
some really exciting guests.
We and some of these are recorded back like when I was, you know, finishing up or starting my sabbatical. So we kind of finished everything up. And so some of these have been sitting, and I've been so anxious to get them out there.
We've been itching.
Yancey's going to be on our podcast.
Guys, you don't even understand. 8-year-old me is screaming about that one.
Yeah, we included you on the interview, which was great.
I literally looked at her and I was like, I don't even know you know this. You are my childhood hero, which is the most church kid thing I ever could have said.
What's awesome though is
I was like, I wanted to chop all my hair off and put pink stripes in it and play the electric guitar because of you.
Yeah,
like
true. You actually did. Have
I
pink
did
stripes
put
in
pink
your
stripes in my hair
Yep.
because I was so obsessed with it.
Yep. So Yancey's gonna be on here.
Awesome.
One of my favorite guitarists in the worship, you know, realm,
yes.
Caitlin Caggiano, which I'm super excited about. We're gonna have a whole conversation with her about how to just be in the worship band, how to be a worship leader when you're just an instrumentalist.
Yeah,
which is pretty cool. That may have been one of my favorite interviews so far. We had a lot of fun with that one.
Fun.
So looking forward to that one coming. We've also got a guy by the name of Heath Bottomley. Heath was a worship minister who's now an executive pastor at his church. He's also
so you got that transition.
Yeah. He's also the director for the Experience Conference. So he's got lots of insight on the relationships between worship leaders in leadership and that kind of stuff. I'm super excited about that conversation. Todd Fields, and I'll just say this, we'll talk about more of this in his episode. But Todd Fields is one of those guys, you may not know his name, but you feel his impact. There is no passion without Todd Fields.
Beautiful.
There's no North Point worship without Todd Fields. Chris Tomlin, Dave Crowder, all these guys that we now know today because of passion, like they probably aren't who they are. The way we receive them without Todd. And the great part about Todd is he's completely comfortable with just, you know, being.
Can't wait to talk about that.
Yeah.
I can't wait to talk about that.
I don't have enough accolades, but I got to interview him.
That's awesome.
Super excited about that. And then we have a surprise guest, which we'll talk about soon. So you guys are going to have to tune in. If you haven't seen us around, go ahead and click that subscribe button, click the like button, all the things. Make sure that you are clued into what's going on here because we have some really big things coming, and I'm really excited about it. So.
You want to be a part. Trust me.
Yes, you do.
You want to be a part.
Yep. You do.
Is that our alarm?
It is my phone ringing. So
the Lord said, "Shut up."
We're done. Hey guys,
again, God doesn't talk to everyone like that, but He talks to me like that, so I can say that. Okay.
Hey, thanks for joining the podcast today. We will talk to you soon.
See y'all soon.